I was giving my meaningful look at the camera. You told me to do that.
I wasn't sure if it was your meaningful look or your flirting look, like I couldn't tell.
No, my flirting look is like this.
I'm so drawn in.
So I grew up mostly in Tauranga, which is, for our international audience, the North Island of New Zealand. It's about 2.5 hours southeast of Auckland if you're driving. It's like a 20-minute flight. It's 150,000 people. It's on the beach. Last time I was there over Christmas, I saw a gentleman walk in from the ocean, go into a subway, buy lunch and walk back out wearing nothing but Speedos. And that's very Tauranga. It's great. We spent a few years in Beirut. When I was young, we moved over in 98 and back in 2000, which are the correct years to have been living in Beirut. My parents are they're great. Like, they're really left-wing. It's quite funny. They're not like full hippie, we've gone off the grid secretly and live in a bunker kind of hippies, but like they are sort of like, they're definitely hippies who went and got jobs, and I absolutely adore that. And so like I was never gonna be a secret racist, but like knowing the Middle East personally, I think has given me a really nuanced and good viewpoint of that, and being able to speak to that has also been very useful. Like certainly people can say very ignorant things, and I can still find it very tough to talk about the Middle East. So like when Palmyra was bombed, like that was really difficult for me to kind of pass, because like I've been there, like I associate it with like somewhere that was home for quite a while. I don't know where like people who don't have an attachment to the Middle East, and like I kind of don't know where they get off saying like the destruction of ruins is really bad, but civil war just kind of happens in the Middle East, very unstable. And it's like, I mean, Middle East wasn't super unstable until the West started sticking their oar in, like, you know, you do you, but it also means that when I'm involved in organising events and like inviting people to events, I make sure they're not just white people, and that's both over like of coming from a place of like, this is the ethically and morally correct thing to do, but also from a place of I would be sad if I don't do this. So it kind of...
So you Pākehā personally? Or...
Yeah, I'm Pākehā.
Yeah.
I'm like fifth
Also...
generation New Zealander. My mum's family name is Simpson, so it's like, it's that white. I don't know if I like ever assumed I was straight. Like, yeah, I just remember sort of one day when I was 12 or 13 being like, I think I'm gay. All of my best friends are Catholic. Shit. And like that was... and so that was tough, and like I did eventually, like one of the first people I came out to was one of my best friends who was like heavily Catholic at the time, and she sort of was not cool about it, so I didn't come out to anyone for ages after that. I think sometime in year 13 I was like, maybe I do like men. I just think all of the men in my life are like not attractive at all. And yeah, it's because like I dabbled with dating boys because it's what everyone did, and it's an easy thing to talk about with your friends because like then you don't have to talk about your creeping nihilism, which I also had because I had unmanaged depression at age 15. So it's like, yes, here's my huge amounts of existential angst, or we could talk about the boy I'm dating.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's one of those is gonna make you friends. And then I got to uni and I was just out. Like, I moved towns, I had an entirely new friend group, like, it was just easy to suddenly be out. Mm-hmm. And that was sort of bisexuality, and like, I like the term bisexual. Mm-hmm. I think it's nice. It kind of fits me. Because I sort of tried to insist on being called pansexual for a while, but then I realised like the label, I like bisexual as a label. It just, yeah, it sits well in my head as regards to me. So I joined debating probably at the beginning of second year, and a large part of the reason I joined it was because I had, and I say this very honestly, I had never been bad at anything before that I hadn't just immediately like quit, and there weren't many things that I had immediately quit. So like I was a talented musician, I was a talented dancer, I did all of this stuff, and I mean that's great for humans, but it's not very good when you're trying to like grow up and like figure out how to manage your life, and I kind of knew at some level inside myself I had to learn how to fail. So I joined debating, and I cried in every speech I gave for about 6 months, and I slowly got better. I work on mitochondrial disorders, which means the cells in your bodies can't make enough energy, and I focus on childhood mitochondrial disorders, namely one called Lee syndrome, which is a disorder that has an age of onset by about the age of 5, and typically causes death like relatively early in life, although there are some forms that are survivable. Meeting people who are affected by it, and I'm quite engaged with the Australian Mitochondrial Disease Foundation, who are like amazing, hardworking people that are the reason I can do this research. That can be really tough emotionally, but it's also really motivating because you know that what you're doing affects real people, and that like you're literally gonna change lives. Like even if you only make a tiny step, like even if what you're doing is putting like one building block into the pyramid of science, like that means so much to people. And it's like, it's really, I don't want to say like awesome or cool, but it's really meaningful to be a part of that. I think like, so from the beginning point, like I am a PhD student, I am like a STEM baby in many ways, and I am like a baby in academia. So like I really want to preface everything by saying that my experiences with sexism in STEM, so sort of starting from that point, like they haven't been your run-of-the-mill experiences of sexism in STEM. They've been like the very shitty thin end of the wedge, in that in my honours class of I think just over 20, we had 2 boys who'd sexually assaulted me, one during the course of our honours and one like I think just after we graduated, and it's just kind of like, cool, this is my life now, I guess.
Oh, that sucks.
This is everything, and I'm certainly incredibly lucky in that that hasn't happened since I've moved to Melbourne. But like when you read the statistics, it's something like 66% of women in biological like kind of field sciences experience sexual harassment or assault when they're on field sites. So WISE is the Women in Science and Engineering group at the University of Melbourne. It's a students group, it's student run, it has been growing exponentially, and I'm so proud of them. And I stepped down late last year from my role as vice president because I need to write my thesis at some point. We provide social events where women can meet each other, possibly other women in similar fields, possibly women in very different fields. They can do sort of informal mentoring and just like make friends. Because realistically, the kind of women that stay in science are the kind of women that have support networks. And this is why you often see like white women staying in science, because they're more likely to have support networks within the sciences. But if we can get like a group of women who are like-minded, who are passionate, who are driven together, and have them all make friends, if they have that kind of support network, if they have like their female friends that can be like, you're doing great, you're an amazing scientist, punch the patriarchy in the face, like they're going to do a lot better than otherwise. The other thing that we do is we provide upskilling things. So we show our members that there is a life outside of academia, and we really don't want anyone to feel like they have to go and do an honours year, do a master's, do a PhD, because that's the done thing. That's what you do with a degree in science. We have sponsors like consulting firms. So we had LEK, I believe, was one of our sponsors while I was on, and they're a big consulting firm. We have groups like IBM and CSIRO come and talk to our students and tell them how to write really good CVs, or they take them, IBM took everyone for like a tour through their building and talk about all the different things they do. Because you hear IBM and you think, computers, but IBM has a pretty big like biological research thing. I sort of yelled a bit about this early last year, where I was talking at a thing called the Laboratory in Melbourne, and it's where a bunch of scientists come and talk about their heroes in science, and I stood up and I yelled for 5 minutes about how Alan Turing has not been like, as a queer scientist, we have one role model, and that is Alan Turing. Not only do we have one role model, we are told we should be grateful, we're also told like we tell an incredibly sanitized version of the story of Alan Turing.
Yeah, I know, like he had some horrible shit happen to him.
Yeah, he was tortured by his government until he killed himself after winning the Second World War. Like, what? And then there's a terrible Benedict Cumberbatch movie where the director was like, maybe he liked women. And it's just so frustrating to be the first person like me that I've ever, like, there aren't any, even like bi cis women, like we're not told about them. Like when you're a kid, when you're like 7 or 8 and you say you want to be a scientist, the person you're told about is like Mary Curie, like apparently the one female scientist that has ever existed. Like, you're not told about people. Like, I'm not super comfortable now just being like, Sally Ride was a bisexual, but like, she's probably one of the closest things I have, right?
Yeah.
Like, it is tough to be constantly out. And like, we talk a little bit about how coming out is a process and like, you just sort of have to keep doing it. And certainly, in my experience, coming out to my parents was very much like, no, remember how I told you I like women? And they're like, yes, but man, and it's like, remember how I told you? Come on, we can do this. We can do this together. I believe in you. And so, like, I understand that people might not want to be constantly being out and having to explain what bisexuality means. Like, you can see interviews with Anna Paquin where she's just like, still bisexual. Yep, married. Still bisexual. Not a non-practicing bisexual. It's not like Catholicism. Like... And so I totally, like, understand and, like, no tea, no shade to people who are bisexual, pan, ace, or any number of other sexualities and just don't want to be out about them. But it does suck when you're looking for role models. And I think my ability to be out and my ability to talk about it and talk about being bisexual, being depressed, being genderqueer, being, like, autistic, like, I feel that because I can talk about those things, to an extent, like, I have a duty to. And, like, that's just my opinion, though. Like, I'm never going to hold anyone else up to that standard. I'm never going to say to someone, being like, you're a bad queer because you're not out about it. It's like, no, do you. Like, do the things that are right for you and right for your time at life. I'm being out because I feel like it's the right thing to do, and I'm being out and loud because I know that when I was, 12, 13, 14, it probably would have literally changed my life.
Inspirational.